Hello. Hi. How's it going? I am still on a break from making regular content on the channel, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube content on my break about this specific topic, and I thought I would throw my hat into the ring, so to speak, on my thoughts on it. And the question I'm posing, or the question that's being posed, I should say, is very simple here, which is, why is every movie bombing at the box office? And it's a multifaceted answer for this question that's being posed. I've seen various different takes on it, ideas. I wanted to put my 2 cents in on it because honestly, this year, 2023, has probably been the year I've watched the most movies in the theater since I did pre-pandemic. So, and I've seen a lot of these bombs. So I want to talk about that and kind of go over it. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this video, again, this is kind of the question that's going around, is why is every movie that Hollywood is putting out bombing at the box office? And the answer is simple. Not every movie is bombing at the box office. You can look most recently at this past weekend at the time of recording this video. Barbie and Oppenheimer exploded. Best 2 movies I think this year. If you combine them, it was the best weekend at the box office of 2023. But Barbie is like a runaway success commercially. Oppenheimer has followed it with also a very impressive amount of money. Barbie opened to 153 million this past weekend. Oppenheimer opened to 80. You have to remember also, Oppenheimer is a gritty historical drama about a pretty important figure in American history. That's also rated R. So that pretty much explains why that movie might not do as well as Barbie. But there was hype surrounding both these movies. That's why they did very well, and I think people were waiting to see these 2 movies. Personally, I've not seen either of them. I do want to see Oppenheimer. I couldn't give a fuck about Barbie, no offense to anybody, but I don't give a shit about that movie. But putting that aside, I've seen a lot of movies this year at the theater, and I wanted to kind of talk about that and answer the question, why is every movie bombing? And again, the answer is not every movie is bombing, but a lot of them are. And again, because being a multifaceted answer, I think there are 3 reasons why there are specific movies that are bombing at the box office. You look at things this year that are clear bombs, like The Flash, which I do want to include in this argument, but I also want to take it out a little bit because there's a multiple layered reason why that movie bombed. I will put a pin on it for a second and we'll come back to it. But also Indiana Jones heavily bombed at the box office this year. The most recent Pixar movie, Elemental, super bomb at the box office. Like Little Mermaid, well, it might look on the surface level that movie did really well. If you look at the box office numbers for it, it actually did not do very well and is also losing Disney money. The only real big successes this year for movies, like big budget movies, obviously what the Barbie and Oppenheimer, Guardians did very well. Super Mario Brothers did very, very well at the box office. Those are movies that did very well. Everything else, you have smaller successes like Evil Dead Rise, which I think that cost $12 million to make. It made 3 times its budget. Fantastic fucking movie. But yeah, so going over it, most movies coming out are bombing. Now, before we continue, I wanted to bring up The Flash because The Flash is a little bit of a different situation here. The Flash, as you can see, I pulled up the Wikipedia page just because I wanted to remember the numbers. The worldwide gross for The Flash pretty much ended at $268 million. The Flash grossed $107 million in the US and Canada and $160 million in other territories for a worldwide gross of $268 million. Following its lackluster opening weekend, the film is considered to be one of the biggest box office bombs of all time, with an expected loss for Warner Brothers to be as much as $200 million. Those are the numbers right there for The Flash, and I just want to bring those up briefly because I see this going around all the time, specifically for The Flash, being put in this argument. And yes and no, it can be in the argument. Now, I've seen The Flash. You're more welcome, obviously, to go watch my review of that movie, where I think it's a good movie, but it's not the great movie that I wanted it to be. And even looking back on it now, being, a month and a half removed from it, there are definitely a lot of problems in that movie, but I in no way think it's also like dog shit either. It has its issues. But let's take for a moment here and just look, like, what's the number one problem specifically with The Flash? Well, it stars an actor that most people think this person is a piece of garbage. And this person is playing a superhero. And after, last year, this person had so many fucking problems and issues, people don't want to see that person as a superhero. So I understand why people said, fuck it, I'm not going to see The Flash because of that. Michael Keaton coming back as Batman couldn't fucking save this movie. Think about that. And I'm the target demographic for this movie. I mean, you can see behind me all the Batman shit. And I walked out of it going, it was okay. And I walked in hyped as fuck for the movie. So Ezra Miller is a big part of why this movie bombed. The other big reason why this movie specifically bombed, where I think it's a little bit different for everything else, is that we already know that this movie doesn't matter because they're rebooting DCU. James Gunn is rebooting it, starting with Superman. Now they're trying, because of how unsuccessful The Flash was, they're out there trying to say, oh, this Blue Beetle movie out, in August, that's the first part of the DCU. No, it's not. Everybody knows that. So I hope Blue Beetle does better than The Flash, because it legitimately looks interesting, but I don't expect it to. I think, honestly, it's going to be worse. And because of that, you have, something like Aquaman in just fucking post-production hell. At this point, they should cancel it. Like, I don't even want, as a DC fan, I don't even want to see Aquaman 2 at this point. Just cancel it. But DC and The Flash and everything, that's a different part of the conversation. You look at something like Indiana Jones, which I also saw, and you ask the question, like, why did Indiana Jones bomb? Yes, a lot of people remember how fucking terrible Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was, but why Indiana Jones cost, I think, almost $300 million to make. Why did that movie fucking bomb? And a lot of it, I think, has to do with people don't want to see Harrison Ford in his 80s playing this iconic character as beaten down. And history and time has taught us over recent years that Hollywood loves to bring back beloved heroes and show them in like a super negative light. And the reason they do this is to play up whatever their new heroes are. Perfect fucking example is Star Wars. Look at the character of Rey versus Harrison Ford as Han Solo versus Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. They brought all those characters back and mishandled them, and no offense, spoilers for the next 30 seconds, but you have, Force Awakens, you kill Han Solo. You have The Last Jedi, you fucking kill Luke Skywalker after basically making him a hermit that tried to kill his nephew. And then Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker. Gosh, I can't remember the name of that shit movie. It's bad. That movie, you have the untimely death of Carrie Fisher in real life, so you can really do anything there. But again, what positive light did you show these beloved characters in? And they also committed the cardinal sin of never having a scene with those characters on screen together again, which is fucking insane. And it'll never happen now. It can't, because Carrie Fisher has passed. So, but we've seen that with this. So I think a lot of people recently are combining their thoughts about how they feel about the Star Wars trilogy and Disney's mishandling of it. And also they remember Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and they go, I don't want to do that again. So what are you left with? A movie that didn't do very well at the box office. Now, again, I've seen Indy. You can go watch my review of it. I actually enjoyed Indiana Jones. I feel like I'm the fucking only person in the world that enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it. I would tell you it's the fourth best Indiana Jones movie, but that wasn't really that hard to do either, was it? So it has its problems, though. I mean, the budget was too high. They spent 25 minutes of that movie, the opening part of that movie, doing Harrison Ford de-aged, which for the most part looks tremendous, but the minute he opens his mouth, it's, 30 to 40-year-old looking Harrison Ford with an 80-year-old voicing him, so it looks fucking weird or sounds weird. So that's a problem as well. But that movie didn't need to be that expensive. And, you know, budgets they're just getting too high. Even if you go to last fall and you look at something like, not Shazam, Black Adam with The Rock, that's about as big of a fucking bomb at the box office as The Flash. So, you know, these movies are just they're not bringing the audiences in. And so you have to ask, well, why? Hollywood, you know, right now is on strike, but you have to you want to ask a question like, why are audiences not coming to this? But then go see Oppenheimer, or they'll go see Barbie, they'll go see the Super Mario Brothers movie, for example. But The Flash, they said fuck it. Indiana Jones, they said fuck it. And it's a multifaceted answer that I think I have three reasons why I think this. Number one, it's fucking expensive to go see a movie today. I'll give you an example. So where I live, I have, in the radius that I live within 25 miles, I have a multitude of options to go to theaters, but the two that I go to, there's the one where I used to live that's a little bit further away, but if I want to go see with friends, we'll go to that movie theater. Or there's one that's closer to me that we'll go see, you know, if we're not going to see it with a bunch of friends. Here's the thing. The theater I used to go to, that I go back if I want to see, you know, the movie with multiple friends or something, it is, if it's a matinee, it's $12 a person. If it is like prime time, like 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you know, going to the theater, it's $15 a person. That's fucking expensive. So if my just alone, if my girlfriend and I want to go see a movie at that theater, that's $30. You know, you add a dinner on top of that, you know, for a date night or something, that gets expensive very fast for two people. Okay? And the thing I'll say here, and this is how I know this is part of the problem, is every time I go to that specific theater, which is a nice theater, it's fucking dead. The Flash, Fast X, another movie I saw in the theater this year, Indiana Jones, and most recently Mission Impossible. All of those movies barely had anyone in the movie to see it. It was like myself, my girlfriend, our two friends, and maybe 3 or 4 other people, and that was it. In the case of The Flash, I think we were the only people in the theater for that. And it's because it's fucking expensive. Now, on the flip side of that, the theater over by me that I go to otherwise regularly, it is $6 matinee or $10 prime time per person. Every movie I have gone to see at that theater this year, Super Mario Brothers, Evil Dead Rise, man, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, sold out crowds. All 3 of these movies. Yeah, I bought tickets ahead of time, whatever. Sold out. Line around the door for Guardians and fucking Evil Dead and Mario when I was going into the theater. Like, it was insane. And that tells you, movie ticket prices are too high. When I looked them up, like, on average, if you're somebody that lives in New York or LA or maybe in the city of Chicago, it's $25 per person. Imagine if you're a family of 4, just on average, you know, a mom, a dad, and 2 kids. Guess what, man? That's going to be like $80. So I understand why people are saying, fuck it, why would I go to the theater and spend that much money when I have all these options of content at home? Okay? That's problem number 1. Problem number 2, and this kind of was brought on with the pandemic. The wait time for something being in the theater versus something coming out on digital is like non-existent now. You know, it used to be you'd wait a couple months, it would hit digital. Maybe it's like 6 months, it's out on 4K if you want a physical copy of it or something. Now, on average, it's 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the movie. The Flash was out within 3 weeks on digital. Obviously, that movie's a huge bomb, but look at the Super Mario Brothers movie. That movie was out within a month on digital. That's a movie that made a shit ton of fucking money in the theater. And you go back, obviously, you can talk about the 2021 Warner Brothers and HBO Max deal at the time where they put their entire movie slate day and date. And I think that changed a lot of stuff about the industry because it changed people's watching habits. Suddenly people said, why am I going to the theater when I can just watch it at home? And then when that deal kind of ended and Warner Brothers realized like we made a mistake and they'll probably never fucking do that again, it's too late. People have realized, like, even myself, like, there are movies, like, for example, I would really like to see Insidious: The Red Door. Why would I go spend money on it when in 3 weeks it'll be on digital? There's no reason for me to spend the money on that. So even though I have gone to see various movies this year, like, I didn't think Fast X was gonna be out so soon on digital, and it was out within 2 weeks. Because again, Fast X did not do that well domestically either. So, but the windows, they've shrunk. You know, unless you're Tom Cruise with Top Gun Maverick, or James Cameron with Avatar 2, you know, you're gonna be in a very short window to see a movie come to digital, you know, and then obviously come to physical after that. So that's problem number 2, or that's part number 2 to my answer. And then the final part of it is, simply put, the writing is lousy today. And this gets into a bigger topic, but the quality of what we're watching, and this affects everything. This affects TV, this affects movies. It's bad. It's not nearly as good. So people are starting to become disconnected. A prime example, a great example, look at everything post Endgame that the MCU has done. How much of it has actually been good and worth your time? Not much, in my opinion. Now, I know there's going to be arguments. I know Marvel fans are going to, you know, raise their pitchforks and come for me, but I'll be honest, there hasn't been a lot of good in the MCU. Obviously, there are standouts, you know, Spider-Man No Way Home, tremendous fucking movie. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Thought it was a fantastic movie, very well written. But you have to look at some of these other huge Marvel misfires, you know. I will also put in there WandaVision was an excellent for TV show, because I want to include TV on this part of it too. They've also oversaturated the market. There's too much to try and keep up with, but none of it feels essential anymore like it did for Endgame, because we don't know what they're trying to build up towards. We have ideas of it, but those ideas are probably going to change for, you know, reasons that I'm not going to get into right here. But obviously, if you know anything about what's happened in the last couple of months with a specific actor, then you know that Marvel's plans for that are probably going to change because of that actor. But even putting it aside, you look at the writing on, like, WandaVision was great. It took this character, it gave her a chance to grieve something, and gave her a definitive answer to where she was going to go with her character next. Unfortunately, then you got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where it came out a couple weeks after that movie's release. Oh, those people didn't watch WandaVision and had no idea, and they wrote their own movie. So now it makes sense why Wanda was doing something completely fucking different in that movie versus how that TV show ended. And it's a disconnect. And because of that disconnect, some of the pieces of the Marvel train are starting to fall off the tracks, and this stuff is not doing as well. You have absolute disaster Marvel movies like Black Widow, Eternals, I did not like Thor Love and Thunder at all. I thought that was garbage. I saw that in the theater. You know, and it's just, or you have TV shows that are just dreadful, like She-Hulk is beyond preposterous. So, but that's Marvel, but that's the example I'm trying to give, is writing is bad. And people are starting to push back because a lot of the writing too, and this isn't just a Marvel thing, but it's in a lot of media right now. There's a lot of politics, a lot of political messages and undertones that are being put into TV shows and these properties and stuff that don't represent what a lot of people believe or a lot of people want to accept. And so rather than engage with it, people are going, nah, that's trash, I'm not interested. And that's why you see some of these movies bombing and stuff. You know, it's going to be very interesting when The Marvels comes out, if it comes out later this year. You know, it might get delayed because of the strikes, but if it comes out and it bombs, I'm very interested to see what the narrative is surrounding that specific Marvel movie. But again, writing, it's fucking bad right now. And it needs to improve. And I'm really hoping once the strikes are over, the writers, get what they want with their strike, the actors get what they want with their strike, and Hollywood gets back to work. Maybe we have an opportunity here to start telling some more interesting stories again, and maybe leave some of the political messages and agendas at the door, and start getting back to characters that have, substantial growth and development, rather than creating a character that is so super powered they don't have anything to engage with, so an audience can't connect with that type of character when they have no threat. They have nothing to overcome. They're just powerful because they're fucking powerful. And that's a real trope in Hollywood in the last couple of years that's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Or you have specific movies or TV shows that try to rewrite certain parts of history that people know is not correct, and so they're not going to engage with that. And then that project fails. And I'm not going to mention projects or names here, but you can just go on YouTube and find all sorts of information about that. So, but I just wanted to make this quick video here and just throw my, 2 cents into the ring here about my thoughts on why is everything failing? Like, why is everything in Hollywood a fucking disaster right now? Even taking the strike out of it. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think there's any other huge movie this year that will do very well at the box office? Or do you think Barbie and Oppenheimer were kind of the it for this year? I would love to know. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, until next time.